Hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. It's me, Jason Paul. Now, if you're a new listener, I invite you into the present moment. Let the pipes mesmerise you, let the drums inspire you. And if you're returning, you know the drill here on the Soul Sync. So I want you to stop and just pause for a moment, please. Now, this week's episode, I am talking to a trance medium called Joe Flynn, and it is a two-part special. It really is a good one, actually. So the first instalment is where me and Joe are going to talk about his background from being in contact with spirit so young, from the age of 12, where he was giving readings to Joining Circle at just 16. Now, as I said, it is a two-part special where I'm going to be talking also to Brother Francis, who is one of the spirit guides Joe Flynn channels, and he was just so wise, I tell you. So you're really going to enjoy that as well. And this episode, it really made me stop and think about my own journey, as I recently said, because it felt to me like so much of Joe's journey was being guided by spirit, because he started off wanting to get into evidential medium, and trance just kept pulling him literally just back in. So it was such an interesting story. We also talk about trance, the altered states of consciousness, so you really are in for a treat with this one, Soul Sync, let me tell you. So I encourage you to sit back, settle in, and enjoy my conversation with the lovely, the kind, the beautiful Joe Flynn. So Joe Flynn, firstly, a massive warm welcome onto the Soul Sync.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you, Jason. It's absolutely wonderful to be here within this interview today.
It is. Well, I feel like it's been much in the making after me being unwell the first time. But I want to there's going to be so much we can talk about on this episode, because you are a very interesting person, Joe. Tell people a bit about you from the beginning, because your story is one that spans back a long time, especially when it comes down to mediumship and all spiritual matters.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know me, my name's Joe Rowley-Flynn. I'm a spiritualist trance medium and tutor, but my background really started from a very young boy. It was really when I lost my grandfather to the spirit world that I started having these very strange experiences where, you know, as a medium, you start to feel the spirit world there. And you think, what's that? That's really interesting. I feel as though I'm not alone, that there's somebody else there. And so I started having all sorts of different spiritual experiences. But as I turned about 12, as I got into those teenage years, I was introduced to two well-known mediums around the local area. And that just came out of the blue. My mum worked for them, and they happened to be mediums, as you do. And so,
Of course,
you know, that's the way it goes. And so through that, from age 12, I used to go round there while my mum was working for them, and she would just say, "Come and sit here, and I'm just gonna go watch or something, and or a ring, and hold that." And starting to do psychometry, and I thought, I don't even know what that is or how to do it. So every week there would be different experiences that she would be teaching me how to sit, how to understand, how to sense. The following week it would be healing. But really the journey, it went from there to then developing my evidential mediumship. I sat in my first development circle from the age of 16. And through that experience was when I had my first real experience of trance mediumship happening. And so with my journey, I was quite reluctant to develop it, because I thought, no, evidential is exactly the path they want me following, they want me to do. But the trance just naturally kept happening. So, you know...
What do you think of that now then, on reflection?
I think, you know, the spirit world have a plan for us. You know, I do believe that there is a plan for us. And I feel that we get a bit too caught up in what we want to develop, what we want to do, because we're interested, you know, we're interested in all the different aspects of mediumship. But I always say, what naturally flows? What is it that naturally happens? And I could do the evidential side of things, but the trance just kept naturally happening and it was very spontaneous. And I noticed that I then started to meet others upon my path that were to do with trance, and it all just naturally fell into place. And I do believe it's the spirit world that creates
Mm.
experiences for us. It's very interesting.
How do you, because there's going to be people obviously listening to this. This is the thing with this podcast, Joe. You go down a million and one rabbit holes.
That's
How what would you say is the difference then between it being something that you're meant to be doing, something that is in your soul plan, and something that you're kind of feeling pulled towards? And the reason I asked the question is because, to give some context, is I don't know why. Well, I do know why, probably deep down, but I feel that where I'm meant to do my mediumship is on a platform, and I seem to have no real urge to ever want to do one-to-one, which kind of feels a bit weird because you think, well, that's where you should cut that. But for some reason, I always feel so attracted towards platform, and I think it's the collective energy of the people in front of me. I don't, one of the things I have when there's someone sitting in front of me, and this might sound crazy, but I'm much less likely to get in my own head or switch into the thinking brain when I'm on a platform, as opposed to when I've got the expectation of just one person in front of me.
Yeah.
That's a long way to ask the question, but I guess the question is, how do you know
I
you
think
should be doing?
it's through the experiences of the phenomena. I really do believe that it's really about the naturalness. For me, it's, with your mediumship, is it flowing? Is there that natural aspect? And I found that even though I could do the evidential, it started to change. My mediumship started to change. And I almost felt as though the spirit world were kind of stepping back, because I did platform for a while and I had a wonderful teacher, very old school, trained within that aspect. And she took me out on platform and I did that for a while, but I just found as though spirit world was calling me to something different. And I think it happens when you're focusing on one aspect of your mediumship and it starts to change and perhaps it's not flowing as much and it's a real sort of struggle. But then there's another aspect of your mediumship that naturally just flows, such as the trance was just naturally happening with me. Then you start to recognize, well, perhaps that's what the spirit world want me to focus more upon. What is it that allows me to move into the harmony and the oneness? And I think the more that we can focus on that, the more we start to understand that journey. But it's also about getting to know those that work with you. And so, it really is about, what do the spirit world need from us? And I had a very physical experience that really, they just caught my attention and was like, this is what we need you to be doing. So there was no messing about with it, really. So I would say, if the spirit world truly want you doing a certain path, they will keep creating it until it happens, but I think we get caught up in aspects around us. So, I think it's about, as well, feeling the power of your soul and where does your soul feel drawn to. But for me, it's about, is it making that difference? You see, when you do your platform mediumship, you're making such a difference to others around you. And so it's the impact quality, it's the healing aspect. Where does it start to allow the deepness to unfold?
It's interesting. When you were talking there, it just jumped into my mind that whenever I do the platform, and I've not done the platform in any other setting than with other mediums, because I haven't found my stride. I need to get to circle more. But whenever I do the platform, it just feels where I belong, and stuff seems to, and like you said about the phenomena, it always seems to happen when it's connected to the platform. But I guess in my own mind, I'm thinking, well, can I be a platform medium if I haven't even, done enough of the one-to-ones?
Yeah, I think as well.
Am I skipping an important fundamental step? I can do one-to-ones. I've got no problem with it, but it doesn't excite me the same way. As, I guess that's the difference, isn't it? What my soul is calling me to is the passion,
Absolutely.
which is what's exciting me. The one-to-one sit down, doesn't as excite me as much. It does excite me in some ways, but you know, I feel like I'm digging myself a hole now, Joe.
It is the passion. You're right. You know, it's
Yeah.
passion, but also it all comes back to where the spirit world want you working, where they want you in service. For others, it may just be healing, and that is the path. We've got some wonderful healing. The healing, it's not so much the mediumship, it's more within the healing aspect. So it may be that you're suited more to the platform mediumship, and it naturally unfolds, and they can work in that way with you rather than in a one-to-one setting. Not everyone's suited in that way. For some, they will explore those one-to-one readings, and that will just be the way that the spirit world want them working, you see. So I
think one of the things with the one-to-one is when you're sitting opposite someone, and if they're coming into it with maybe an element of disbelief, you know, sort of sitting there with their arms crossed, you know, we've all kind of been in that situation where the energy's just a bit off. Whereas I find that can really, I struggle with those sorts of situations. Whereas when it's a collective crowd, you know, you build on that energy in the room, and it can be electrifying. I wanted to ask then, so trance mediumship, how are you using that to help people? Because it's not obviously something that's, you know, very mainstream in terms of members of the public. Yes. So how are you using that to, you know, heal people?
Oh, hello, dear listener. It's me, Jason Paul, and I want to welcome you to my Christmas grotto. Honestly, half the elves are on strike, the wrapping paper has run out, half the fairy lights have blown, the cat's eaten the tinsel, and even the QR codes for the naughty list have stopped working. Honestly, festive joy everywhere you look. I've had enough of it, I tell you. Meanwhile, I'm here trying to record episodes, edit intros, and not accidentally superglue my fingers to a gift tag. Santa does one night of work, and I've been in this for weeks. Now, I've just taken what we call a fag break, just for 5 minutes. I've told the elves, but I need to step away. I'm struggling to even keep a serious face in this, but I've got essentially a Christmas competition for you. Now, I'm giving away my top 5 spiritual books. Most of them, well, so quite a few of them are about mediumship, but I don't want to spoil the Christmas surprise. Where is the fun in that? So I'm going to give away not the originals because I love them, and you wouldn't want them anyway because the corners are all bent and they look horrible. There's highlights all over them. So I will be sending you brand new copies, but books that have genuinely shaped my spiritual journey and I refer to all the time. So to enter, it's really simple. All you need to do is leave a podcast review on Apple or Spotify. So just leave a review on Apple or Spotify. One review, very simply, is one entry into Santa's magical draw. The winner will be announced on the Christmas Day episode, which I'll probably be recording whilst solely on mince pies and driving the ship here at the Christmas HQ on Blind Faith. So I will announce the winner, leave a review on Apple or Spotify. It helps other people to find the show, and it will get you off my naughty list if I could get the QR code working.
So we have our trance mediumship community aspect, you know, trance mediumship community page. And it's really about bringing a community together to understand trance in a very personal, a very closed space. It's not so public. I mean, of course, trance mediumship, there are trance demonstrations. So we do know it from that aspect. But how I work is very much in a private way. The way I was very much brought up within this was very homeschool circle based. So I have my home circle with my trance mediumship, and then inviting guests in to have an experience where they talk to my guides that come and communicate with them and speak about their life, things they may be struggling with, things they're going through. And so it can become a very personal, deep communication between the spirit world and this world. And it's given people an opportunity to experience what trance mediumship is.
I was going to say that there's going to be people listening to this first of all that's going to be wondering what on earth is trance.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
So trance mediumship. Trance is really, let's take it back a step. We have evidential mediumship, the mental mediumship. And that's where we are really relaying the information. Okay, so I have an awareness of spirit. They're saying this, they're saying that, and you're relaying that information. We work through the altered states of consciousness, as we know. But then there's many different aspects and deepness of altered states of consciousness. So we can move from those lighter aspects into much more deeper aspects, and I call it entrancement. And entrancement is where we start to become more of the communicator. So within your evidential mediumship, you may start to take on the mannerisms of that individual, and so you're moving into a deeper state within your power. But then we have, from the entrancement, what happens is we move into trance control. And really, the trance control state is where we allow our guide. We work with spirit guides with trance, but also loved one communication can happen. And it's where we are giving over that aspect of our consciousness to the spirit world. And so they're not possessing us. It's not possession. That's one thing we need to get very clear. There's that Whoopi Goldberg, and there's that scene, isn't there, where the ghost overtakes her. It's nothing like that. It's nothing spooky. You're learning to blend your awareness with the spirit world through the energetic field around you. So it's a soul to soul communication of blending. And you, as a medium, are learning to let go of your conscious awareness. And that can be sometimes a little bit difficult because we don't like to give up surrender. Within mediumship, we're always talking about.
I think you're being quite kind there by saying it might be a little bit difficult.
Very difficult.
This is the crazy thing. Is actually the most simple thing in the world when you strip it back, isn't it? But it's not. It's simplicity is what makes it so bloody difficult.
Yes, yeah. So we overcomplicate it. So it really is about moving into the stillness, moving into the quiet, and allowing spirit to come into that space around you in a much more deeper way, so that they can start to take over the vocal cords, they can start to speak through you. And so those that are experiencing trance phenomena can start to sometimes see changes over the face. And that's really what we call overshadowing. So you start to experience more of the spirit world here and now. You start to have your own experience. And so it can become quite strong. It's a very physical energy that's built up with trance mediumship. And if you look back at pioneers of the past, they really did develop really deep altered states of trance work, just beautifully. So trance mediumship is a blending of soul to soul. It's where we're allowing the communicator to come in just much more within our own aspect of this world and giving evidence of themselves. We have trance evidential communication. We have trance soul assessments where the guide comes forward and gives that person an assessment. That's something that my own team do with me. Trance philosophy. But there's various different stages with it. It's one of those aspects where what is trance mediumship, or it will probably take 2 hours to explain.
Well, there's a lot to it. There's a lot I want to ask you about today, Joe. When you talk about the blending of the soul and the spirit, how are you experiencing it? Is it more of a melting away of the self, or is it more, would you describe it as more of an expansion of the self?
Beautifully put. It's a very interesting... Yeah, that's very interesting, because a lot of people feel, do you have to expand? Because if you think about evidential, you're in a very active power. So you're expanding. It's this constant expanding, because we know the spirit world are on a much higher frequency. So we've got to raise our vibration. But with trance, you've got to develop a very physical energy. And so what happens to the auric field is it becomes very magnetic. It becomes very passive. So you've got to learn, first of all, how to move yourself into an altered state, and that's through the peace. And there's one saying that I always say, and I say, think not with the mind, but feel with the soul. And so it's about learning to move your awareness down to where you feel love resides within you. Where do you feel the power of your soul? And so where do you feel that stirring that allows you to become aware of the energy? And, you know, for me, the only way I can really explain it is that, like you said, I just start to fade away. I use the breath to help me move into the power that I am developing for the trance state. But I move into the deepness of the soul. And so, you know, there's that term, isn't there? What's the difference between meditation and sitting in the power? But with trance, for me, first of all, if I get myself into that very peaceful state, into that altered state, and I know that my mind is calm, it's surrendering more, then I can start to build the power within myself. And it's very different to the active evidential side. It's building the power still, but in a very physical, magnetic way. So that's how it works for me. I just focus on the breath. I give over to the spirit, and I just focus on moving into the presence and the oneness of my soul until I then start to really feel the gathering of those that work with me. And through that, there's this deeper blending. And it's, for me, it's all about the oneness. You know, how can we become one with ourselves, one with the power, and then into the experience of the spirit world and give way to that? It's simplistic. I don't think we need to complicate it. So, but that's how
you're right there. I've watched a fair amount of trance mediums over the years. I've been developing my mediumship for 4 years. My granddad, like you, was he was a very well-known medium. But as you do, Joe, I didn't ask him any questions whilst he was alive about it. Of course. Yeah. I've tried trance, and I tried it as recently as a few weeks ago. And my biggest thing with trance is actually being able to get the words out. You know, I feel that they're there. I feel I can feel it happening in my throat, but it's saying the first word. And I did actually manage to do it the other day. But all it takes is one thought or something that, you know, is a feel of, well, I guess a thought of like silliness or self-doubt or whatever, and it's gone, hasn't it? You know, you've come out of that state.
Yeah,
and that's what I need to do. You mentioned earlier on about knowing your guides. Now, I strive to sit in the power every day. Am I currently doing that every day? No, I'm bloody not. But when I do it,
life is me.
Yeah, when I do it, I fully realise the reason why I should be doing it every day. And when I go on some course or something, I think I need to nail that, but I'm getting better. So you mentioned in some of the notes that you kindly sent over before that trance for you has healed parts which were and aspects of your life which were for you too painful to look at before.
Yeah.
How do you feel the spirit world has brought healing, and how have they done that through trance? Because I've heard other people say that one of the main things they love about trance is how they feel after it.
Yes. It can create many different experiences for us, but not everybody's going to have the same experience. You could have two people that come to witness a trance demonstration, and one of them experiences so much and the other one doesn't experience as much, you see. So it really is personal. And so for me, how did trance change my life? Really, it did. You see, it was through a physical phenomena experience that I had, which I will share with you. And at that stage, the trance was naturally happening, but there were still aspects of my own healing that I wasn't really wanting to look at, that I was finding very difficult. One of them being relationships. I could not be in a relationship. I could not open myself up to love. And yet I feel to really expand that connection with spirit, love is essential. You know, we all need love of self, but love of another person as well. But it was always something I struggled with my life, and I had lots of difficulties around that. And it wasn't until I then met my husband that my mediumship changed because I fell in love. I actually learned to open up that side, but it was very difficult to start with. And so the physical experience that I'll share with you is the spirit world said to me, go and get a trumpet. Or what, to go and play an instrument? Or
you seem like the sort of person I could imagine who would play a trumpet, Joe. You seem very aligned with that of a brass instrument.
Yes. So I thought, trumpet? What kind of trumpet?
You don't strike me as someone who would blow one's own trumpet, though, Joe. Whilst I've got an opportunity to get a joke in.
Yes, absolutely.
But carry on, please do.
Yes, no, it's fine. And so I understood what they were meaning, because I had an interest in physical phenomena, and we know that there is direct voice phenomena, which is very, very interesting. And so I just put it to one side. I thought, right, okay. And we went to this local garden centre, wasn't even thinking about anything. And it was around Christmas time. And there was these decorations of this Santa Claus. And I looked at this Santa Claus, I lifted it up, and it was in the shape of a trumpet. It was a metal trumpet underneath. So I thought, okay, that's really odd. The spirit would have said to me to get a trumpet, and now there's that. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to get it. Let's just see. Let's see what.
You know, when you see something, it's not the coincidence, I find. It's how it makes you feel.
It is.
And I have to butt in with this story really quickly. Because I'll forget it. But I went on a course recently, and on the way home, I had so many experiences which were all tied to platform mediumship. And then on the way back home, I was about to cancel another course I'd booked at the Arthur Findlay College in 2026. Yes. And just as I was thinking about it, a car drove past with AFC 26, the number plate. And I thought, no, I'm not cancelling that course. No way.
Exactly. They know, don't they?
They do. But carry on, Joe. Tell us about the trumpet.
Yes. So anyway, I got it. And at the time with my development, I had a summer house where I used to live, and that was where I would go and sit on a daily basis, sitting and building that power. So me and my husband went down into the summer house, very dark, and I just thought, you know what? In the old days, they said about dark in the room. This is more physical phenomena. Mm-hmm. And just put the trumpet down and just see. So we sat. And remember, I was going through a lot of difficulties. I wasn't really listening to the spirit world. I was doubting. I was trying to get to know the communication with my guide. I knew they were there, but I was doubting. I still had that doubt, which was very silly of me now when I think about it. But that was,
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, but it was more to do with where I was, within my journey. Anyway, we sat and we started hearing noises, and the trumpet started to move. And as the trumpet started to move, a voice started to shout out of that trumpet. And it was one of my helpers who I recognized the voice, and they were shouting down the trumpet and telling me to basically heal those aspects that needed to be worked upon. It was only for a few seconds, but that's direct voice phenomena, very, very rare. And it changed my life. He came forward and spoke through it, and then the trumpet went bang down onto the floor. And of course, I started to absolutely get very emotional, because it's very, very different. The whole time within your evidential aspect, you are aware of the communication in that way. But to have a very physical experience like that with the spirit world, you can't put it into words. It's very personal to you. But from that day on, it changed me. It started to get my attention, and they haven't done it since, but that was enough. That was all that needed to happen within that moment. And we couldn't believe it. And my poor husband, he was very new to spiritualism, and that's his first experience of it. So you can imagine him thinking, oh,
who am I getting into a relationship with? Who is this man?
So it was very, very, very empowering for us both. And to recognize the strength and the intelligence, and clearly the conditions were right within that moment for them to get that across, to be able to even move a trumpet and to then speak through it is just incredible. But it changed my life to hear my guide's voice, through that trumpet, telling me off. and that I need to sit more regularly and I need to do this and need to do that. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And from that moment on, it just changed me.
It's
Mediumship
interesting.
can change us. It really can.
It's interesting because even part of the reason why I took a big break from this podcast and even kind of down tools on my mediumship for must have been about 8-9 months was because I was purposely, as crazy as this sounds to so many people, I was shutting the door in the spirit world. I didn't want to hear from them particularly because it was throwing up all things in my own life that I wasn't particularly happy with. And then I went through a period of every person that booked a reading for me had part aspect of their life which was directly something that was prevalent in my life at the time. And I felt that the spirit world was just giving me basically a giant mirror. Because I closed the door on them. They had to fully close the door because they were sending me all people that were, it was almost like crazy, the people coming to me. But it's funny, we all have these different, blocks. And I think mediumship is very, very exposing. It makes you, really have to look at yourself. And I've got the same relationship block. I've had the same relationship block for a long time. So it's just very interesting. Obviously, knowing one's guide and knowing the team is important. I can't say that I know my guides. I know they're there, but I cannot tell you any more than that. But that probably goes back to what we said about sitting in the power. They're probably my guides must be banging their head, Joe, against concrete. They must be like, what the hell? Why can't we? This guy is so frustrating. Why won't he just do what he needs to do?
I think we live in a busy world, and we're in such a modern world where we're just constantly busy. But the practice and the discipline of sitting in the power to understand that relationship with your guide, and we don't need to know absolutely everything about them. It's not like what did you do for a living? What's this? What's that? But it's just feeling the presence, the essence of them, perhaps the culture. People get really caught up on a name and things like that with them, but for me it's more the presence and the essence. It's feeling the presence and the essence of that person with you and getting to know them. And so when you look back at people such as Mr. Gordon Higginson, he knew them. They were part of his family, they were just there. And there's certain stories where it was so natural, where it would just be happening at home, but the guides were a part of the experience, and there to help. So it is. I think we've moved forward a lot, and mediumship's become very modernized in a way. And so, but putting that time in to get to know your guide, it does take time. It takes discipline, and just taking that moment to just sit down and have that dedication. But all we can do.
Discipline is the word, isn't it?
It is. Yes, absolutely.
It is the word. You just touched on there the future. I guess looking forward, if you, Joe, were to imagine the future of trance mediumship 50 years from now, what do you hope will remain sacred and unchanged, and what do you hope evolves from it?
Very good question. One thing that comes to mind is groundness. I hope that groundness stays within it, because...
What do you mean by that?
So there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of myths with trance, and sometimes we can get a bit too carried away. If we've not looked at ourselves enough, then how do we know when there is the authenticity of trance communication happening? I hope that people, and all we can pray for is really that people take a grounded approach with their mediumship. That's what I hope for, so that they can build a foundation to take their time with sitting, to understand the relationship of who is there. Because when you look back at the pioneers of the past, that's what they did. They took their time to understand and get to know and get that bond. So for me, I hope that people take more time to sit, to actually build more home circles, because it's one of my passions is bringing home circles back. And I do feel people are creating that. Doesn't have to be in person. We've got many people doing home circles that are online, and it's making friendships. But I just hope that with trance mediumship, that we can get to a stage with it where it can become very strong, where there can be an experience where somebody has sat for many years and the communicator, say their loved one, can come forward in the trance states and have a very intimate experience with their loved one, because it's been done in the past. There's been
It's so powerful, you know.
It is.
Well, I've had mental mediumship. Well, I had one mental mediumship reading of my granddad where it was almost, I think, kind of bordering on trance, because his personality, his mannerisms, the way he would talk, and it bloody hit me. You know, it was the best reading I've ever had, because it was like I was actually talking. Well, I was talking to him. It was him, you know.
Yeah, and that's where I hope, because I feel that if we had people that could sit enough, but not so much in a public environment, very out there, but in a very private setting where there is that harmony and where the conditions can be built. You see, when you look back, such as Estelle Roberts, she had her circle for many, many years, but she had guests that would come in to then experience the phenomena. So, if we could just get people to sit and build in that way again, it would just.
I would love to hope that it could be a member of the public thing where you could do that one-to-one. Then it does bring up a question, though, that where is it done for the medium? If the medium is in a trance state, there is a high level of trust there. It's very, exposing.
All states. And
are.
That's why with trance, I always have my husband that sits for my unfolding.
The chaperone.
Absolutely, because it's so important. I often say to students developing, you've got to feel comfortable, you've got to feel at ease, and you've got to have the harmony and the right conditions. You don't need loads of people to develop your trance, but just having one other person or two other people, if the harmony and the power is right and the conditions are right, then I believe anything is possible. I really do. But I think looking at the future, it excites me, because everything's always expanding and advancing, and I do believe that the spirit world are wanting to bring back more physical mediumship. I do believe I
think we need it. I think we need all mediumship in bucket loads at the moment. Okay, your 16-year-old self then, sitting in that first circle, young, vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
If he could see the man then and the medium you've become today, what do you think he would say to you? I'm asking, but lots of people will say, what would you say to your younger self? I want to know what your younger self would say to you, Joe.
Yes, that's very interesting. I think to be kinder to myself. I think to be kinder, to enjoy the journey. And, before I got involved with spiritualism, well, while I was involved within spiritualism, I was a professional Irish dancer. So everything was perfect. It had to be, that world was perfectionism. And so not to be so hard on myself, I would say to enjoy it more. And as I've got older, I've learned, you just need to enjoy what you're doing. And I see other people developing and I observe them, and they're getting so caught up in and getting frustrated. And I believe that we need to enjoy the journey more. So I would say to my 16-year-old self, be kind to yourself, enjoy the journey more. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I wouldn't take any of it back though, because I've met some wonderful people upon the journey, and it's taken me to various different, paths. It's just been wonderful.
We're gonna have to get you on. We're gonna have to persuade you. We're gonna have to get the listeners to persuade you to come on to do a trance.
Yes,
some trance for us at some point, because there's gonna be. And do you know what? That's what's needed. More trance is needed to be out there in the public domain, so we can break down all the fear and the taboo about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Joe, I feel like there's so much we could have talked about. I feel like there's so much that was on your sheet that we haven't even touched on. But the time is just running away with you. Leave us on, if you do want to find out more about Joe, your trance community, all of the details will be on the show notes. Just go there. The links are there. Joe, leave us on a final thought or a pearl of wisdom or anything that's on your mind. Some people like to just, I've had as short as one word. I've had a whole monologue before. I've almost had to do a whole separate episode. One of them went on so long. So you can go for as little or as much as you would like.
Okay. One thing I will say, because, we're on the subject of trance mediumship, explore it, understand how you feel with it. Each experience is going to be different for each person. As I say, one person may experience it and it will be wonderful and life-changing. For others, they may be a bit skeptical. There may be more to understand. It may be a different path that you need to explore. But one thing I want to say is go back to you. Don't give your power away, but just understand your own power and really get to know what your soul is saying to you to move you forward. Because for me, it's about the soul. It's about the expression and the power of your soul. And there's no right or wrong way to your unfoldment and your development. It's your way and how the spirit world works through you. And so understand how you can sit. Look up our pioneers, because you will learn so much. And when you feel very disheartened and you want to shut the door and you don't want to do this anymore, just get a book and look at the pioneers and watch and feel inspired, because we need to learn to find the glow of the soul again. So learn to find your spark and just explore it. And most of all, have fun. Have fun with the journey. Don't rush. A lot of people just want to rush, but learn to understand your foundation and enjoy it and enjoy the experience with the spirit world.
I honestly think that was such wise words. And as you were saying it, Joe, so much of that probably applies to me. I probably needed to hear that about 4 years ago, Joe, to be honest with you. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and coming on here. I think you are a beautiful human, and I'm sure many people are going to resonate with a lot of what you said. And I'm a big believer we need to get trance out there more, because I think it can do so much good. And trance shouldn't just be something reserved for aspiring mediums and people within this world, because it's a shame. It needs to be out there more. But
it does. I think it's the education of it. It's dispelling the myths, and it's recognizing the impact it can have on you, and it has a very healing transformation experience for people. So it's nothing to be scared of. It's a beautiful aspect of mediumship, and it's something that's very, very ancient and very old. So it's something that's always been here.
Joe, thank you for coming on the Soul Sync. It's been a delight.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, Jason, for having me.
Now, wasn't he just lovely? The beautiful Joe Flynn. Now, as I said, the next episode just after this one, which will be out in about a couple of days' time, is where I'm going to be talking to the lovely brother Francis. And do you know what? As I said at the beginning, he's so wise. So you're going to hear some of those words, because he was definitely on a mission through the Soul Sync to tell us what we need to know about life. So if you want to know when the episode is out, you can always subscribe, and then you'll be notified when the episodes do come out. And I just want to say I'm super proud of this episode, because so much work has actually gone into it. Because you're probably thinking, bloody hell, I love this music, I'm feeling the power. But that's the point, because I want to make it immersive. But to do that, I've had to get music licensing sorted and all sorts of different things to enhance the experience for you. It's always going to be about an audio experience for me. But if you do want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you're welcome to. Jason Paul Soul Sync. Until next time, lots of love.